try not to make too many assumptions, because I made the mistake of making a lot of assumptions, making the product so custom and so radically different than everything else out there. And then you find that, you launch it and you spend a ton of money, and then you find that like nobody really cares that much about, most of those features. And then so it's frustrating because you wasted so much time and energy and money making molds and tooling and the inventory and all that. And all you really needed to do is maybe just do one or two of those features rather than all 10 of them. And you could have saved yourself a lot of time and money and reduce your overall cost.
Welcome to the E-com Breakthrough Podcast. Are you ready to unlock the full potential and growth in your business? You've already crossed 7 figures in sales, but the challenge is knowing how to take your business to the next level. Join Josh Hadley, an 8-figure e-com business owner and investor, as he interviews highly successful business owners. Get ready, because you're going to learn specific actions you can take today to help your business reach its full potential and leave a lasting impact on the world.
Welcome to the E-com Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley, where I interview the top business leaders in e-commerce. Past guests include Kevin King, Aaron Cordovez, and Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth. Today, I'm speaking with Kusha Karvandi. He is going to be talking about how he sold 3 e-com brands and the lessons learned of how you can scale your own brand to 8 figures and beyond. This episode is brought to you by E-com Breakthrough, where I specialize in investing in and scaling 7-figure companies to 8 figures and beyond. If you're an ambitious e-commerce entrepreneur looking for a partner who can help take your business to the next level, my team and I bring the hands-on experience, strategic insights, and the resources needed to fuel your growth. So if you or someone you know is ready to scale or looking for an investment partner, reach out to me directly at josh@ecom breakthrough, that's ecom with 2 M's, and let's turn your dreams into reality. But today I am super excited to introduce you all to Kusha. Kusha is an Inc. 500 entrepreneur with a remarkable history of launching and exiting several 7- and 8-figure e-commerce businesses. With over a decade of experience in scaling brands on Amazon, Kusha has mastered the art of driving sales through advanced marketing strategies, data analysis, and impactful branding. His recent venture, Kazam, a revolutionary AI-based SaaS tool, is transforming the way Amazon advertising campaigns are optimized, offering users significant profitability and organic ranking improvements. So with that introduction, welcome to the show, Kusha.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you on, and I'm really excited to learn more about, how you built and exited 3 different Amazon-based brands. So Kusha, if you wouldn't mind, maybe provide a little bit of background about yourself and about the 3 brands that you built and sold.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I started my Amazon journey over a decade ago, and our first product was called the VFR bins for something called blood flow restriction training. And back then Shopify wasn't as big, and we didn't know anything about 3PLs or how to drive traffic. So we just then listed it on Amazon, and it slowly started selling. And then over the course of a couple of years, it really ramped up to be a full-fledged, full-time business that we focused on solely, and getting a good sense of like Amazon and how that works and how to drive traffic and how to build products. And we ended up actually launching a separate brand to 8 figures in revenue, and then sold it at the end of 2019. And then during the pandemic, during 2020, we saw a big peak with health and fitness. A lot of people buying home workout stuff. So we ended up selling our BFR Bands brand separately as well, and sold that portfolio of brands in 2021, trying to do the same thing again, and built another, multiple 7-figure brand, or a couple brands really, that we're selling on Amazon now, as well as some other ventures like our software, our PPC and such.
Kusha, that's fascinating, and that's amazing. Like, it seems like you have a great track record of continuing to come out with new brands, being able to scale those. So I'm curious, what would you say is kind of like, what's the magic touch that you have, or like, why do you feel like you've been able to have such high success rates with the different brands that you've been working in? Is it the product differentiation? Is it, you just time the market correctly, or are there other secret hacks that you have going on in your brands that you're able to implement that you could share with our audience?
Well, I'd say it's a bit of both, really. The competence. wellness because I know health and fitness very, very well. It's been my background for a long time. And so I try to stay in that area. If I were to get into maybe office products or something that I don't am successful with that. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, differentiating, creating custom products. We don't really do much private label. We do a lot of customization, custom molds, and a way to make our products better and then, intellectual property around it. Not only to make it defensible, but also just adds a lot more value and more stability, perceived stability to the buyer when you want to sell.
Awesome. Kusha, obviously you've got like the Midas touch or a magic bullet of some sorts that's helping you be able to scale 3 different brands and being able to exit them really well. So tell me more about what you think is like the differentiator. There's been other people that fail, but you seem to, do really well, whether it's product selection or whether it's, finding a new niche that isn't yet super saturated with competition. What do you feel like is the differentiation that has allowed you to succeed so often with these different brands?
Yeah, I think the key is, the staying in our circle of competence. So staying in health and wellness, which I know very well, so I can have a little bit more of an edge in that category. And then also always looking to differentiate with just some product improvements and intellectual property, custom molds and tooling, not just selling the exact same thing as everyone else.
I think that can make a huge difference in any brand. And I think that product differentiation, and especially if you can incorporate some IP into it, can go a long ways. I'm curious, did you do anything on the traffic side of things to help promote these brands? Like, were you doing influencer partnerships? Was there off Amazon traffic that was helping, or was it primarily just, capitalizing the traffic that was already on Amazon?
Yeah, with one of the brands, I think 50% of our revenue is Shopify. So we were driving a lot of traffic through, Facebook and Instagram back then. We weren't driving traffic to Amazon, but I'm sure we were getting a good overflow and halo effect to Amazon that benefited us. But yeah, the other brands, it was 100% Amazon. We weren't driving any traffic outside of Amazon. So the only things we were doing really was just PPC. PPC was a big part of, I think, and I think becoming more important today, but it was a big part of, I think, why we were successful, with our products. And again, it's the things we went after weren't as competitive when we got into those categories. So I think timing was a big part of it. Getting into like the massage gun space now would be a lot harder. Back then there was like 4 competitors. Now there's like 4,000.
That obviously makes a big difference. And you touched on this briefly, but you talked about how PPC has been, a real big advantage, and that's what you focused on, especially with the last 2 brands. So what is it that you're seeing with PPC that's helping you get ranked when you launch a new product, and how does it help you stay ranked moving forward?
Yeah, so Amazon, they're taking in a lot of data about relevance, product relevance. And so when someone goes and does a search find buy, like if they're searching organically for a keyword and they find your product and buy it, that's obviously going to play a role in the overall algorithm for where you rank for that search term on the page. But PPC does as well. And PPC is becoming, I think, weighted even higher, in my opinion, than where it was even before. I think it's becoming more and more important over time. So what I found just in my experience and from talking to other Amazon sellers, if you're not running PPC, generally what happens is if you just purely rely on, you might start losing rankings or slowly dipping, whereas PPC can maintain and sustain those rankings. And it's almost a necessity to sustain your rankings. So PPC has become an integral part of launching and sustaining rankings for any product.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tell me, and again, this is the interesting thing about PPC. If you ask 100 different PPC consultants or agencies their strategy for succeeding with Amazon advertising, you're going to get 100 different like strategies and responses. So what's kind of your approach with Amazon advertising? Tell me about like the campaign types that you're activating, what you're seeing working now, and tips to help our listeners succeed as well.
Yeah, I think the key thing is really just every category and every product is different. So, what we do is we try to take in, we might start with some research campaigns like auto campaigns and even some manual campaigns that are really designed for us to do some research first. And then those will then slowly take the data and take the customer search terms and then convert those into something more specific. So for example, we might take the automatic campaign, take those winning customer search terms, and then campaign with broad phrase and exact. In the past, we found exact to be a little bit higher priority, but now we're finding exact match tends to be more expensive. So phrase match, and maybe in that case. So we'll launch things like that for research, and then we find that top of search in general, I might focus more on top of search with bid multiplier for having the system prioritize top of search. But that's not always the case. There are some cases where a product may be doing better with just a mix of top of search and other placements. So we kind of let the system optimize for that. And then we take the data and then, with our software Kazam, for example, it will do this automatically. So we don't have to do this manually, but it will automatically figure out, which placement's going to do best and then kind of prioritize from there. But I would say in general, top of search is going to be more favorable, especially if you're trying to focus on organic rank and improving your Amazon rankings. And then looking at your competition, do you have like a like by like competitors? Like, do you have similar competitors to you that you want to hedge against, and that you've designed some kind of improvement upon? Then those ones would be the ones you might want to do some display campaigns, some offensive campaigns, also defensive campaigns, and then doing some sponsored product page campaigns on those competitors as well. And if you have a good assortment, like if you have a good mix of SKUs and it's not just like one hero ASIN, but you have maybe or variations and there may be different listings, that sort of thing, you could really capitalize and dominate the real estate of those ad placements when you have those different product ASINs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What would you see? Do you feel like you have any case study, whether it be clients you've worked with, that you've seen, what's working today with Amazon? Like, here are some maybe things that you're seeing mistakes people make, and maybe some successes of like, hey, when we double down on top of search, we always see a lift in organic rankings or whatever it may be. Like, do you have a list of case studies that we can dive into?
Yeah, so I have some clients we work with as well, and from what I'm seeing, focusing on like I said, top of search, I would say has worked best. Like I've been putting, probably 100% or 200% multiplier towards top of search, and that has seemed to pan out very well from not only just a ACoS standpoint, but your total ACoS, your TACoS. That has worked out very, very well for pretty much all of our clients. I don't know of a single case where it hasn't provided the best results so far. But like I said, it's a case by case basis. So there may be a case where maybe you don't want to just focus on top of search. I would assume maybe in cases where you want to just have more brand awareness, more top of funnel, then you may want to have other placements as well. And other ad types. But yeah, we've been heavily focusing, probably 80%, sponsored products has been our budget. We've been putting a lot of the ad dollars towards sponsored products and less towards sponsored display and sponsored brand video or the storefront, things like that. I haven't been putting as much attention there, mostly just focusing on sponsored products.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What else are you doing? Do you see, video ads working well, or what type of things do you see, becoming more and more important? As Amazon, I think, wants more advertising dollars from us, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, what do you see? Where do you see the puck going in terms of ads over the next few years?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot like these other platforms like TikTok or Meta, where you need to test a variety of creative. And I think AI is going to play a bigger role in making that more accessible. Because obviously for a lot of sellers, it can be, not only time consuming, but expensive to get video creatives, which for some platforms like TikTok, you really need a ton of creatives to be successful with TikTok. And so I think Amazon's going to become like that too, where maybe you don't need like dozens of creatives, but you need more than one or two ones for that product. And I think AI, we're already kind of seeing this now with Amazon, where they're starting to leverage more AI to build creative assets for you. Pretty much seeing that with everything. Even Canva now uses AI. You have an AI tool in there that you can design things faster for images and such. So I think that, moving forward, I think just having a broader set of creatives if you're going to try to launch more video ads, and then also launching, making sure that you have, captions on those videos, because most people aren't going to be listening to the audio.
I think those are good tips. And I think that Amazon does want to double down on the video aspect, right? I think you see, Amazon trying to like figure out like what TikTok is doing, trying to replicate that in their own way. They have that Inspire, kind of feature on the app and things like that. So I think that at the end of the day, Amazon does want more videos. You see them testing out videos, even when you're just searching, going through the search pages. Sometimes you see, the main image is actually like a video that automatically starts playing as you scroll down the search results. So I like that as well. I'm curious, what else do you see Amazon doubling down on over the next 5 to 10 years? You've seen the marketplace evolve quite a bit, and I think that today it's never been more competitive than it ever has been on Amazon. And you mentioned it with a couple of your brands, like part of it was, good timing and things like that. So what are your recommendations and advice that you're giving to other sellers right now to stay on top of the market, to be able to compete with all of the low cost competition that's coming in from overseas?
Yeah, I think AI is going to be a very, very valuable tool. And I think the sellers that, utilize AI best in their businesses, I think are the ones who are going to probably succeed the most. And then aside from that, utilizing more differentiation and customization in your products, not just relying on private label. I used to focus more on private label in the beginning, but pretty much like I said, now we only solely do custom products, just for the fact that we're seeing so many Chinese factories selling direct on Amazon, and it's hard to compete with them on price if we're selling a commodity. So if we're selling kind of the same exact thing, or if it's kind of a commoditized product, then we're never going to succeed. So I try to avoid selling products like that, or even categories where maybe the customer doesn't even really, even if you do make an improvement, they don't really care and they just want whatever's going to be cheapest. I try to avoid categories and niches like that and try to focus more on categories where, customers may want the product that is a little bit better, or maybe it just has some certifications and some trust behind it that make it more trustworthy than buying from maybe, let's say, a Chinese seller who they don't know, like, does this have toxins in it? Does it have BPA? Does it have PFAS? What kind of toxins am I going to be putting in my body if I buy this product from China, that sort of thing. So definitely differentiation, but I really do think AI is a big part of, I think, where everything's headed. I think that I've seen a lot of investors talking about, obviously people have kind of a bearish view of where equities will go. But I think that equities may see an economic boom as a result of AI. You see Meta running all kinds of ads for the Meta AI. And I think that a lot of these companies are going to become much more profitable and create new potential revenue streams as a result of integrating AI. So I think we may actually see an economic boom as a result, probably what the economy saw with the internet boom, and what the economy saw with maybe the motor vehicle boom. So I think with each generation, we see something new that could potentially catapult businesses to a new level. So AI, I think, is a great way. I don't think you need to get lost too much in the weeds in AI, because there's so many different tools, but I think using it to improve your copywriting, or just speeding up the process of copywriting for getting your listings launched, improving your creatives, and maybe reducing your costs for creatives. I really like, the idea of creating a minimum viable product. So before you go and do all this investment into a product, getting photo shoots and all this stuff, get the product up and running, as best you can with the least amount of capital that you can. Obviously you want to do it right. You don't want it to look cheap, but if you can have something using AI in terms of your photo creatives for your main carousel and your A+ images, I would test with that first, get the product selling, make some money, and then have the product basically pay for itself, pay for its own improvements. Take that cash flow, reinvest it then into a photo shoot or some good video assets or UGC, etc.
Yeah, I love that recommendation. I do agree that, that minimum viable product, I think, is so essential to just kind of get things out there and to just test the waters. And again, I think the number one lever for any Amazon-based brand is like new product development. So the more quickly you can come to market and you can test out the market and then double down on those that are winning, I think that's where you're going to succeed in the long term. Because like you mentioned, like being able to create, custom, unique products that are differentiated, I think is the end all be all. As you've worked with different clients and you've had a lot of experience, as you said, like shifting away from just like putting a private label on top of another existing product, what are some ideas? Give us some more ideas of ways that you approach product differentiation, and how do you come up with, innovative product ideas where you could maybe find a patent or a design patent? Can you give us some ideas there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is things that I might use myself. So, if I see something that it's in the health and wellness space and I've already been kind of using a product like that, or if I've already been kind of familiar with that type of product, then I already kind of know what the pain points are because I'm the end user. And so I think that's where, staying in your circle of competence, I think is a big part of it, because if you kind of venture outside of that, it becomes hard to have that insider's knowledge to understand the customer at the same level of depth as when you are the end customer. So because I am kind of end customer for my own products, I have a good sense of what are the pain points, and then obviously you can do your own research with various tools and look at the reviews and look at, okay, what are these negative reviews saying. I like looking at the 3-star reviews because I feel like those are the most honest. And 1-stars can be fake, or they can just be negative people that just complain about everything. But 3-stars are very honest because these are people who like the product, but there was something missing. So 3-star reviews on your competitors' products can give you an idea of what was missing, what you can improve upon, and you can use those for your design improvements in the beginning. And then when you're getting your patents, design patents are easier to enforce on Amazon, in my opinion, than utility patents. Utility patents will make your business more valuable and create just a greater sense of defensibility overall, but it will be more expensive to enforce and a little bit harder. But with Amazon, design patents are pretty straightforward, as long as it's not too narrow. I've had some cases where maybe it looks too specific to the product, and then someone else kind of designs something, easily designs around it, that sort of thing. That I found that it's a little bit more difficult for Amazon to enforce it. Then you have to get an attorney involved, and then it gets a little more expensive, that sort of thing. But when it comes to design patents, when you talk to your attorney, and the first step is you want to make sure to have them do the research first. So they have to first look at the prior art, and then use that to list what the prior art is on your patent application. In most cases, when I'm doing design patents or even utility patents, I like to try to pay extra to expedite it. Otherwise, it could take forever to get it. Design patents, if you do something called, I think it's called Rocket Docket, you pay extra. Can't remember how much it is. Maybe it's like $500 or $1,000 extra, but you'll get basically a determination within like maybe 3 or 4 months. I've even seen some as fast as like a couple months. You'll get an office action. And design patents are a little bit easier to get approved. Like with the utility patent, you're almost always guaranteed to get like a non-final rejection initially. And so you have to then spend another several $1,000s, have your attorney write something up, and then write his rebuttal to that, whatever. But with a design patent, if it is unique, then I've seen in most cases, most of our design patents, they don't reject it on the first time. They accept it and then it registers. So if you do the Rocket Docket and all that, you might get it 12 months. Especially if you have rejections and you get back to them quickly, you'll probably have it registered within less than 12 months. So it's very fast. But yeah, my point with that is when you're doing Rocket Docket, or I think maybe it's called Track 1 patents, it's required, I believe, to submit an extensive prior art search. So you have to pay your attorney a little bit extra to include a search of all the prior art with the application. And so when you do that, you may find that when your attorney first gets back to you, before they file the application, they're going to get back to you with the search results, and they may say, hey, here's what we found. Here are some things that are a little concerning because they do look very similar to your product, whatever. Or they may come back and say, yeah, we don't see anything that we think is a big concern, so we can proceed as is. If the thing is concerning, then you can decide, do I want to, refine this a little bit more? Generally, when you're doing design patents, that you make claims is with solid lines. So when you have a drawing, anything in solid lines is what you're claiming is your design. If there's dashed lines, those dashed lines are things you're not claiming. So a lot of times the attorney might try to make the application a little bit more broad and make things with more dashed lines and less solid lines, because then you're not claiming every intricate detail of your product. But if you see in the prior art search, or maybe if you get an office action where they reject it based on some prior art, then you might want to tweak that and focus more on making it a little bit more specific to your product, or maybe even tweaking the product if you haven't even launched it yet or started your mold or tooling. This might be a good time and refine it so that you are able to get some IP behind it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant overview of, design patents and utility patents and everything that's involved there. Do you ever use any of like the product testing or like polling software such as like PickFu, IntelliV, or Product Pinion to like put your ideas out onto the market and get customer feedback? Or are you just generating these ideas solely on your own based off of reading Amazon reviews?
I probably should do that more. I mean, my only problem with it, I have used PickFu, and these aren't the actual end customers. So the data's a little bit to, take a survey. So are these people the actual customers who are interested in this product and care about this product? Usually no. So I just find that their opinion is, not as valuable as just getting. That's why I said get the product out there. Maybe you want to start with private label, just get it out there and, buy a minimum amount of units from the factory, like whatever the minimum order quantity is. Get it out there, get it up and running, use some AI to get some images and the minimum for, product photography. So you don't spend a lot of time and money just to get it up and running. Figure out quickly what needs to be changed and what needs to be improved. Or if you can do a small design improvement that is not too a lot of gambles. I mean, I think business, you kind of have to take some educated bets. So we take a lot of bets where we'll say, you know what, I don't know for sure if this is going to work, but I have a pretty good idea, or it seems logical or very rational that if I, improve this, that, or the other, that's only going to add value. Especially if, like, let's say you're going to sell something that, let's say you're going to sell a product where the complaint is that it often breaks, and you're like, okay, my design improvement is I'm just going to make this thing a little bit thicker. I'm going to make it a little bit more robust. I'm going to make the material a little bit better quality. Improvements that I don't really see in most cases that those kind of improvements are going to backfire on you. It's not likely that you're going to do that and people are going to say, oh my God, I don't like how this thing's so durable and it lasts so long, So it's like those logical types of assumptions are pretty safe. So in my opinion, it's fairly safe to take those bets, just launch it. And then, if that works, you can keep it as is. Or if you think that, hey, you know what, I want to keep improving this, then I would recommend, and in most cases we do this, where we just continually improve the product and we'll just keep launching new versions and new variations constantly. We're always launching new models of our different products, because every few months we see that, hey, you know what, this product's good, but there are different products to kind of overcome that. So we'll just launch a whole new series, a whole new model, and that's always kind of done well for us. I've had other brands in the past where new competitors, come out of nowhere, and sometimes they make inferior products, but sometimes they make products where I'm like, oh, you know what, that's actually a really good idea. I should have thought of that. And so the competition can inspire me to create something even better. So then it leads me down a rabbit hole where I'm like, oh, you know what, I do need to create a model that addresses this need for a different customer segment or something like that. So definitely pay attention to your competition as well, so you can gain some good inspiration there.
I love that kind of mindset shift to be looking at, being inspired by your competition, not just seeing them as like, oh, they're just my competition. Like, you should be seeing like, oh, they did this. Oh, that gives me another idea. Maybe I could tweak and refine that. And I love that you talked about like always coming out with new models or variations for your product. I think that again, is one of the most important things, is to continually stay 2 steps ahead of the competition, right? Because as soon as you come out with something, guess what that competitor is going to do? Oh, okay, well, I need to go create something similar to that. And I think that's the advantage that we have to all of those overseas competitors. I think they do a very poor job of understanding like the end user, and they're very good at copying, right? And so if you can always stay ahead of them in terms of innovation, designs, like you will always continue to win, because it's the people that, they are who you were, a year ago. And that's kind of the nature of the platform, I think, today, is like you just always have to be growing, because if you're not growing and actively pushing new products, like you will fall into kind of like decline mode in your business. So anything else that you would double down there on that and new product development, Kusha? Anything that we haven't, any stones we haven't overturned here?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think just with product development, try not to make too many assumptions, because I made the mistake of making a lot of assumptions, making the product so custom and so radically different than everything else out there. And then you find that, you launch it and you spend a ton of money, and then you find that like nobody really cares that much about, most of those features. And then so it's frustrating because you wasted so much time and energy and money making molds and tooling and the inventory and all that. And all you really needed to do is maybe just do 1 or 2 of those features rather than all 10 of them. And you could have saved yourself a lot of time and money and reduce your overall cost.
Yeah, great insights and great feedback there. Kusha, I want to go back real quick to what you talked about with your first brand, is that you were doing about 50% of your sales on Shopify. You were doing some Meta ads and Google ads. I'm curious to hear from your perspective, would you ever go back to that model with your current brands now? Or do you feel like the juice isn't worth the squeeze? It's better to just double down on Amazon right now?
No, I definitely think it's worth testing, especially if you have something differentiated and it's a little bit more of a blue ocean, not super competitive yet. I think it's worth testing if you have the budget for it. I mean, you can launch Google ads for fairly cheap. And Google, if you think about Google, Google is very much like Amazon, where it's a query-based platform. Amazon and Google are similar to each other. And I think, Amazon built their business on Google, using Google ads and such in the beginning. So I think Google can be a nice, cheap, easy way to start to expand outside of Amazon, and then start to direct traffic to your own store and build your email list, build your assets of SMS and email lists that you're not relying solely on Amazon. So that way, if you're 100% on Amazon right now, maybe in 6 months to a year, maybe you'll be like, 70% Amazon, 30% Shopify, or 50-50, or, the more that you can, have control over your own customers that you own, I think the better in the long run. And I think a little bit less stress too, because Amazon just has such a stronghold over your, over your listings and your account and your funds and disbursements and all that. I think it's better to try to maybe think about Amazon as a good launch pad, especially if you've been selling on Amazon for a long time, Amazon well. Think of it as a good kind of Kickstarter, because the traffic's already there, and it's very cheap to get traffic from Amazon if you know what you're doing and you know how to, or relevant keywords and such. And then over time, try to build your Shopify store and your direct response outside of Amazon. And I think, TikTok is a little bit trickier. I know a lot of people are talking about TikTok right now, but like I said, it does require a lot of creatives. You might need like 2 or 3 dozen creatives, video creatives, like UGC style from content creators that you could run as ads or run as like Spark ads, where it looks like it's coming from their profile, in order to get something to maybe go viral and become profitable. Obviously, there's always exceptions to that, but that seems to be kind of the common theme I see when I talk to a lot of successful D2C e-commerce sellers. They're running a lot of creatives. Meta too, but I don't think nearly as much. You may not need as much. And sometimes with Meta, you can, if you find a winning creative, you can run that winning creative for a long time. But TikTok seems to be that, I think the creative fatigue happens a lot sooner. So you need to just constantly be refreshing it every week.
Yeah, I see that as well. I'm curious, have you done anything with your different brands to build your email list off of Amazon? Have you done any QR codes on product packaging or anything like that to build an email list off of, launching on Amazon?
Yeah, we've had different products where there was, maybe inserts for, maybe an extended warranty, or maybe there was some type of a funnel we'd have in place there to provide product support, things like that. And so honestly, we didn't really do a ton with that. And that's something that we need to do better at is improve our email marketing and improve our indoctrination sequences and things like that. But I think product inserts, obviously Amazon doesn't want you to do that, so you have to be careful about putting in inserts deliberately designed to turn Amazon customers into your customers. So you have to be kind of cognizant about how you do that. But I think it's fairly safe, in my opinion, if you're going to be offering warranty registration. I think it's fairly reasonable that if you sell a product that has a warranty, that they have to register it some way. I think also product support is a very safe thing, because Amazon wants you to provide product support. They love it when sellers help and provide product support. They don't necessarily want you to circumvent their processes and things like that, but when it comes to product support, I don't think there's an issue. So if you can get people to go through you to get help or video guides and things like that, at a minimum, you could pixel them. So if you just get them to go to your site to see video guides or download certain guides, I probably wouldn't put those guides behind some type of a opt-in wall, because that might frustrate some people that they have to give their email in order to view their guides that came with their product. But I would definitely pixel them. So you could put a cookie on there on that page, and you could pixel them, run ads to them, and then use some top of funnel ads through Meta or Google or whatever it may be, to get them to maybe buy another code, or maybe just whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
at a minimum, I'd be definitely using inserts to try to get people pixeled some way.
Yeah. Love that strategy. And using the pixelation to then, run other ads to them. So brilliant. Kusha, what else would you recommend that we haven't yet touched on? We've touched on numerous topics today. What else, do you think our audience needs to hear in order to help them scale from 7 to 8 figures?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we kind of touched on everything when it comes to traffic and when it comes to creatives and technology like AI, as well as customizations. I think also maybe the other thing is just having a good strategy for sourcing. Sourcing is obviously a key component to your success. Not only getting quality products, but also making sure you're getting it at the best price. So sourcing can be, most people obviously probably sourcing from China, but don't be afraid to maybe venture outside of that. Look at other countries to source from as well. That can also be a selling point, because a lot of the competitors that you see on Amazon, they're either directly selling from China, so it might be a Chinese competitor, or you see a lot of these other U.S. sellers who are selling products made in China. And a lot of consumers love it when they see made in a different country. I think there's just more trust there when it's a product that's maybe not necessarily made in China, especially when it's a product that maybe interacts with the human body, something that you put on the body, or something that you consume or put on your face or something like that. Those types of products, I think there's going to be more trust there that if it says it's non-toxic, you're going to trust it more if it says made in the USA than made in China. I think there's just less trust that this company from China who may have a certificate that says non-toxic. How well can we trust that? Is that validated? Is this a scrupulous not? Hard to know for sure, but I think that made in the USA, if you can, definitely that's a good way to go. It can be a lot more expensive, like maybe 5-10 times more expensive. But if you're in a category where you can justify selling at a higher price, it might be worth the added cost of goods sold.
Yeah. I think that's good input and advice. Do you have any recommendations in terms of sourcing? Like, are there partners, agencies that you utilize when you need to source a new product?
No, we have an employee in China, and that Chinese employee, like, you can start with like a trading company, for instance. Honestly, a lot of the sellers on Alibaba are often trading companies, so they're not the end factory. So you're paying, in essence, a little bit of a markup. Because when you go to this Chinese factory on, let's say, Alibaba, if they're the trading company and not the actual manufacturer, they're going to be marking it up so that they make a fee too. So they're going to mark up the per unit cost. So a lot of times you can ask them questions around, how many units they will fit in a large container, like a full container. If you ask questions like that, you'll be able to decipher whether this person is actually a trading company or are they an actual manufacturer. Because if they don't know an answer to that question, they're most likely, not the actual manufacturer, most likely a trading company. So
Good
questions
insight.
like that can be very probative and helpful. But yeah, and finding a good sourcing agent long term, that would be probably the best way to go. I think our sourcing agent was originally a trading company we were working with, and then that individual left that trading company and then kind of worked for us directly. But you could probably find one maybe on Upwork. You can find these agents, but yeah, like I said, the key is trying to find these manufacturers directly. That would be the best way to go. Try to work with these manufacturers directly by asking these different questions. That's where you're going to get the cheapest price. I've heard some things people were saying that, for instance, with Alibaba, that a lot of the factories that really need the work, those are the ones that go in Alibaba. The ones who are really high quality, like the best factories, they don't really list on there because they don't need it. They don't need to be listed on Alibaba. They don't need to find customers or clients from there. And generally, I have found in my experience, like a lot of the factories we work with in the past, they don't speak English, so I have to have the agent work with them directly because they can speak Chinese with them, and you're not going to see that on Alibaba. These Alibaba representatives are speaking English, and so you're not going to find those types of factories on there.
Yeah. Love those insights. I think those are some great pointers when trying to find the right manufacturing partner. Kusha, this has been a great podcast. I love to leave the audience with 3 actionable takeaways from every episode. So here are the 3 actionable takeaways that I noted. You let me know if I'm missing something. So action item number 1 is create differentiated products. And I think that's what Kusha really doubled down on. I think has been the magic to his success in scaling and exiting 3 different brands is being able to have something that's completely differentiated in the market. It creates that additional moat around you, and you can tell how much time and effort that Kusha has put into thinking of how do I create a product that's better than existing products that are out there on the market. Which then leads into action item number 2 is when you do create innovative, differentiated products, make sure that you have an IP strategy in place. So whether that's obtaining a utility patent, which will definitely have more teeth to sink into it, or a design patent that can be very robust as well. But make sure you understand the implications of your copyrights, design patents, and utility patents. And we've previously had Rich Goldstein on the podcast, who specializes in doing just that and helping provide a strategic insight in terms of your IP moat that you can create around your business. And then last but not least, I think the third action item is creating those Meta and Google ads back to those Amazon customers. So if you can find a way to have somebody scan a QR code for a product warranty or whatever, grab that pixel so that you could then build up that your pixel list on Meta that says, hey, anytime that somebody has this pixel on them, go ahead and run this ad. And it's just like an upsell ad. That's an easy way to start your Shopify brand without saying like, oh, I've got to go figure out a bunch of UGC content. How do I go approach a cold audience? That will then create a database of customers for yourself that in turn you could then create lookalike audiences. And so I really like that, hack of just using that pixel to then be able to get the ball rolling at a small scale. So Kusha, is there anything else that you feel like I left off as an action item here?
No, I think the only other thing would be, integrating more AI into your, day-to-day, utilizing that to become much more efficient and maybe even reducing your overhead. Like we had, agencies we were using in the past for a lot of our creatives and copywriting, and now we just rely heavily on AI to speed things up. So just requires a lot less manpower, which is a lot less overhead.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's we'll add that as the fourth action item there, right? Is implementing AI. So wonderful. Now, Kusha, the final three questions here. What's been the most influential book that you've read and why?
I would say probably, Rich Dad Poor Dad was a really, really good one for me because it really kind of changed the way that I thought. My whole life, I was, kind of led to believe by my own parents even that, you work really hard, you go to school, you get a job, you get a degree, and then you become successful. And in reality, especially today, like none of that stuff matters. Even with my own kids, like we homeschool them now, and I don't really care if they go to college. Like that's not a priority. So you got Mr. Beast, who started YouTube when he was like 11, and then at 23, he's got like the biggest YouTube channel in the world. You don't. Education is something that you had before you started school, and you'll have after you leave school. And so I feel like Rich Dad Poor Dad really opened up my eyes to just how I view things like those systems, like education, as well as just understanding that like the difference between assets and liabilities. And I think those are so important to running a business, as well as, when you do see success, becoming a good investor too, because that is really a hard transition when you start making money. I've seen people make a lot of money in e-commerce, and as long as they have that cash flow, they're happy, but they're blowing it on a ton of stuff. They're buying expensive cars, they're renting expensive homes. And then when that cash dries up, they go broke or bankrupt because they never really learned the skill of becoming a good investor as well. And saving is just part of it. You can't just, just be a saver. You have to know how to invest. You can't just put it in cash, especially now with inflation being so high. Inflation is just going to destroy your savings. So you have to learn at the same time that you're a good e-commerce entrepreneur, you got to learn to be a good investor.
Yeah, I think that point is really well taken. I don't think that gets talked enough about is like, what do you do with the excess cash flow that comes in? And you're right, like buy assets and not liabilities, right? Don't just throw your money down the toilet because, hard days will come. And if that ever dries up, which it will at some point, like you better have a plan and, investing wisely can make all the difference. So
exactly.
Great recommendation. Second question here is, what's your favorite AI tool and how are you using it?
Well, I think our biggest AI tool we're using right now is our own software, Kazam, that is AI assisted for PPC. And so a lot of the stuff, like I mentioned earlier, that we were doing manually before, like taking certain keywords and putting them as negative exact matches, or taking certain customer search terms and launching a variety of manual campaigns targeting those winning search terms. A lot of the stuff that we had to do manually that was very monotonous and time consuming and slow and inefficient, now we're using Kazam to do it in an automated fashion. So Kazam is now taking everything that was basically in my head and what I was doing manually with PPC optimization, and then it's adding on a layer of AI to make it even better, to automate the whole process. And the cool thing we've added now is we've added this ability where you can chat with the AI. So there's an actual chat feature now in the dashboard where you can actually speak to the AI as if it's like your own media buyer. So instead of paying thousands of dollars a month, maybe a media buyer to manage your Amazon PPC, now you can pay as little as like a couple $100s a month, and have this Kazam AI where you say, hey, can you tell me, give me an overview of how the campaigns for this ASIN have been performing? Can you pause these campaigns? Can you change these budgets? Can you add these keywords? Do you have keyword recommendations? There's a variety of things that it can do. It can do for like several dozen things it can do for you. So it's a very, very versatile and robust tool. And I think for the cost, it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, it sounds like a fantastic tool. We recommend people go check out. All right, third and final question here. Who is somebody that you admire or respect the most in the e-commerce space that other people should be following and why?
Yeah, I would say a friend and acquaintance of mine. This guy's name is Josh. He's the founder of Snow Teeth Whitening. And, I knew him more as like an acquaintance several years ago, but a business partner of mine in another brand that we own together, he kind of knew him a little bit better. And so we ended up doing a call with him just to kind of review this new brand that we acquired about a year ago. And he was just very, very generous with his time. I mean, we spent like 3 hours on Zoom, and he just dived into everything. This guy, if you don't know much about him, he's built, like Snow, I think is an over $100 million a year business. And that's just one of several, I think, successful businesses of his. So it's just, the guy's a serial entrepreneur, and he's just very, very, attuned to, how to drive successful D2C. Amazon, I'm not sure. We didn't really talk too much about Amazon with him. It was mostly D2C, so I don't know his background with that. But with D2C advertising and Shopify, it was very, very insightful. Like I said, we spent like 3 hours, and it was like nonstop. I mean, he barely took a minute to breathe. He was talking like the whole time, and provided like just a million bits of value. It was so good. So definitely, I recommend someone I think everyone should listen to and follow, because he provides a lot of good information.
Yeah, he does have a great track record. So great recommendation. Kusha, if people want to follow you, they want to learn more about your AI PPC tool, where's the best way people can follow you and learn more?
Yeah, go to gokazam.com. That's GOKAZAM.com. And, they can always email me directly if you have questions, info@gokazam.com. Happy to help with anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It was fun having you on the show.
Thank you for listening. Visit ecombreakthrough.com for more information. If you've enjoyed today's episode, the best way you can show your appreciation is by clicking the subscribe button and quickly leaving a review. See you again next time.